In this video, we're going to learn how to turn this, so again, just to review, A minor to D major, into this. Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to the channel. I do appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. This is a whole series of videos, so if you hit the bell down below, you'll also be notified when the next one comes out. In this series, I've been introducing you to 2 chords per video. And we first started with major chords, then we moved to minor chords, and now we're mixing major and minor chords together. The idea here is simple. Learn these chord shapes and practice switching in between them to build up your dexterity when you're playing songs. This video is broken down into 4 parts. In the first part, I'm going to show you the A minor and D major chord shapes. Then I'm going to play you a musical example that uses those shapes. And third, I'll show you the parts that I played in the song so you can see exactly what I'm doing on the guitar. And finally, the 4th part, I'm going to give you some practice tips. Let's go ahead and get started with this one. Before we get to the musical example and the practice track, let me show you the 2 chord shapes that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the A minor and D major shape. So for A minor, we're going to start with the open A string. Then we're going to put our 2nd finger down on the 2nd fret of the D string. Our 3rd finger is going to go right behind that on the 2nd fret of the G string. And then we're going to put our 1st finger down on the 1st fret of the B string. And then we can play the open E string as well. So this shape, strumming from the 5th string down, sounds like this. That's A minor. Then we're going to move over to D. D, we're going to start with the open D string, our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string. And we're going to strum from the 4th string down to make D major. So again, just to review, A minor to D major. Okay, let's move over to the practice track. This song has 4 parts to it, and they're all based off the open position chords that you learned earlier. The first part, we're just going to take the A minor chord and the D major chord and use our fingers to kind of pluck out the sounds of them. Kind of little stabs. And on the second part of that, I'm going to do a D sus chord where I'm going to take my pinky and I'm going to put it down on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and then I'm going to pull it off to go back to the D chord. So again, it goes like this. To the D. Then the sus. And all I'm doing is I'm kind of using my 3 fingers here, and I'm doing the middle 3 strings, so I'm just playing the middle 3 strings for the A minor. And then I'm going to slide my hand down and play the 3 strings of the D major. And it's just a little bit of a tug, a little pull, like a claw if you will. The second part's just going to use 2 notes per string. We're going to use an open string and then our 1st finger down on the 2nd fret of the D. That gives us the E note. So A and E for the A minor. And for the D, we're going to take that whole idea and shift it down 1 set of strings. So now we're going to have an open D and an A for the D major. And all we're going to do is pulsate these as 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and go to D. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And that's all we're going to do is cycle through that. If you want to add a little more excitement, you know how we're doing those pulses for the first part where we're going If you want to, when you're palm muting these things, which basically means that I'm having the flesh of my hand against the strings here when I'm playing these notes so they're not ringing out. It's not ringing out fully. We're dampening it a little bit with our back hand. What you could do is accent those other beats that we're playing for the first part. It adds a little bit more excitement to the first part because you're copying what it's doing. You're giving it the same energy level. For the third part, we're going to stay on the G and the B string only for both chords. What we're going to do is we're going to play the top half of the A minor, which happens to be the C and the A. So the C's on the B string, first finger on the first fret, and your A is on the second fret with your second finger on the G string. And then when we go to the D major, all we're going to do is going to leave our A down because that's a common tone. A common tone is a note that's shared between chords. So that's the same A that's in the A minor is in the D. And all we're going to do is we're going to play that A and then put our third finger down to hit the D, the root note, on the B string on the third fret. So the part goes like this. Again, C, A, D, and that's all there is for that part. For the fourth part, all we're doing is mimicking the first part. We're doing the same A minor shape and the same D major shape that we did before, including that sus move and pulling it off. But we're just doing quicker stabs with the chords. It goes like this. To the D, sus, and all this is doing is adding a little bit more excitement to the first part. And you can do that a lot in your songs. If you want to add a little bit more intensity, like when you go into a chorus, think about doubling a guitar part. So let's talk about what to practice. After you get your guitar in tune, practice switching between those two chords. Always make sure you're practicing to a steady beat when you're doing that so you know that you're keeping the notes for the equal duration that you need to. The next thing to look at is start playing without a pick. If you notice this first part used your fingers and we're just plucking on the strings, practice that. Practice using the side of your thumb for some of these chords. Just start experimenting. Try maybe using the opposite end of your pick even for a different type of part. Again, use your fingers, use your thumb, use your pick, all sorts of different ways. And listen to the different textures that it gives you when you're playing chords. The other thing to practice is looking for those common chord tones. We notice here that the A note was shared between the A minor and the D major shape. And we were able to play single note lines based off of that. So start looking out for that in your own songs or in different songs that you're learning to play on your own. And finally, think about doubling your guitar parts. You notice for the fourth part here, we emphasize the first part by playing or mimicking the same chords and the same type of rhythm patterns. Doing that really, again, will add extra volume to your song. So feel free to download this track from my website, not just so you can practice along to it, but also so you can listen to how these parts interact with each other and how they emphasize each other, particularly at the end of the song, again, where we're doubling that guitar part. That's another wrap on a video in this series. If you like what you saw and found any value in whatsoever, please do me a favor and subscribe down below, hit the like icon, and knock on the bell doohickey and you'll be notified when the next video comes out in this series. I always do appreciate your support, and thank you very much for watching. Just start experimenting. You can even use the opposite end of your pick a lot of times.